Welcome, 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 everyone. All right. Looks like we are live. Whew, super late start tonight, guys. Sorry, I was having some technical issues with my personal self today. So, feeling much better. Had to have a little bit of a lay down, but doing better now. So, definitely wanted to come on and talk to you guys tonight. The topic tonight is going to be about prioritization and negotiations and interpersonal skills. So we're going to kind of tap into that, and we're going to go into why that's important and what the heck does this have to do with like trauma and healing and happiness, right? So if this is your first time joining me, my name is Tina. I am a happiness coach, and I help people that are dealing with depression, anxiety, and just going through a generally bad time and helping them get to a happier place. I do this by sharing my personal experience, strength, and hope in hopes that you can take something from this discussion and you can implement it in your life right away and start moving yourself to a happier path. Now, the experiences that I'll share tonight is probably going to be a little bit more on the business side, and then I'll also be tying it into personal interactions and how that works. So I always share from my personal experiences, so it helps give you guys a little bit more of a tangible experience, and so you I don't know. That's just kind of how I learned the best when somebody shared with me exactly what they went through, especially if it was a challenging time. That was actually the most valuable piece for me because I was able to then see myself in their situation and I was able to um, see how maybe not all of what they did, but I could take a piece of something that they did and I could apply it to my life, and it actually improved my life like immediately when I did those things. So I would highly encourage you sit back, listen, and learn. If you do have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, type in hashtag live just so that I know that you're here. If you're watching the replay, type in hashtag replay. If you're on TikTok, go ahead, tap the screen, share the live, just at least so that I have some energy exchange. I know people are listening and that I haven't made you guys all fall asleep, but if maybe that's the reason why that you joined in and maybe you just like my voice and you want to fall asleep to that, that's fine too. So, all right, guys, so we're going to dive into it. So prioritization. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes it can get to a point where you have so many things on the go, it can be difficult to understand what do you need to prioritize, especially in this day and age. It's so easily to get distracted. Hey, Saeed, I'm doing well. How are you? It's so easy to get distracted with all the different things that you have going on. And it can be difficult to understand what do I need to prioritize, right? It's like, okay, um, do I focus on my health? Do I focus on my business? Do I focus on all of these different things? And sometimes it can get just like, I can't do anything. And you end up having, oh, no, I'm good, Saeed. Thank you for your concern. Peppermint tea fixes a lot. So, um, so going through different things, you can wonder what is it that I need to do first? What is it that I need to do second? What is it that I need to do third, right? And sometimes we can get stuck in spending a whole lot of time trying to prioritize different things, but then there's usually new information that changes that priority. And I'm going to start share a little bit about a time where I was one of the pieces I had to do in a role that I was doing was project management. And we had like over 100 different projects. It was a bit of a smaller company, so you had to wear lots of different hats. And one of the hats that I had to wear was managing a bunch of different projects that were on the go. And they were in various statuses. And there'd be every week we would meet and there'd be something that would shift the priority on it. And it's like, so one day you'd be like, okay, this is the top priority, we got to get this done. And I had to, through the week, go and connect with the different teams that were responsible for the work. So I wasn't actually the one doing the work, I was the one managing the teams that did the work, making sure they understood what it is that they needed to do. Um, and what kind of timelines that needed to be done in. And it was really challenging because, like I said, oftentimes it's like, okay, we'd be going along on one project, we'd hit a couple of road bumps, and then it like would shift the priorities, and now we had to midweek switch over to something else, got bumped up onto the priority list, and I had to track all of that stuff. And we didn't have fancy software, we were using an Excel spreadsheet, so that was fun to be able to manage that. It's about 15 years ago that I was doing this. Um, and but managing the priority list wasn't the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge came from interacting with the different teams and understanding the different social dynamics that ended up playing into the situation. I can promise you this is probably the case for any company that you work in. It's not the actual work that you do, it's interacting with the other humans that usually ends up causing some of the biggest grief and stress that you deal with in uh, any business, right? And so this is why it's so important to do the inner work for ourselves, because when we become strong enough within ourselves, it becomes pretty easy to navigate these various challenges that you end up running into. And so, you know, oftentimes, I had to learn different things of like why certain people were delaying, they were missing deadlines, and trying to get to the bottom of it and trying to really understand what was going on for them. And when I did that, when I actually took the time, and I think this is why I was so good at this role, was because I took the time to understand what other things that they were dealing with besides the project I needed them to get done, right? So when I did that and I understood what other challenges they were facing in their day to day, like one time I was dealing with the finance person, and she was having all kinds of problems that the system wasn't billing things correctly, wasn't generating taxes correctly. And when I understood what her challenge was, I took that on. I said, okay, I'm going to actually put this on the project list. I think we can fix this in the system, and I can work with the programmers to get done what you need to get done. Just explain it to me. And I really tried to understand, and I looked for ways to solve her problem in order for me to get my problem solved. And because I did that and I put that on the project list and we actually got it ramped up for her, she was much more agreeable with working for me and with me to hit the deadlines of the things that I needed done from her team. I also found out about she was having some staffing issues as well, that some of the temporary help that she had in place to do some data entry, invoicing kind of stuff was, she was having trouble finding people that would stay more than a week, right? So what I did is, in a previous role, I had a connection with um, a networking, an agency that did temporary help, and I put her in contact with them, and they were able to get her some new people and qualified them to make sure that they would stay more than the week, right? So these were just different things that I did to be able to solve those challenges, right? And that was one of the easy ones, right? Now the other things that started to come up when I was dealing with the programmer got frustrated because they were always changing the parameters of what was needed. And so when I understood what his frustrations were, and I knew what kind of questions to ask whoever was asking, because all the programming had to come through me. And I would make sure that I truly understood what he needed and why he needed those things. And I made sure that I got him all of that information up front so that I could make sure that he had everything. I reduced his resistance to wanting to work with me, wanting to do the thing, because if I couldn't get the programmer to code the stuff that he needed, if I couldn't avoid his interruptions and that caused his delays, then that would just slow down all of the projects. So I always made it a point to prioritize other people's challenges first, so that I could help them get done what they wanted done. And when I did those kind of things, um, I don't know if it's like law of reciprocation or what kind of fancy terms that you want to call it, but I just thought it came across as just truly caring about the people that you're dealing with, even if they are not your technical customer, and even if they weren't my boss, right? You know, some of these people, they were on the org chart, they were technically lower than me, but I still valued what challenges that they were going through, and I tried to help in whatever way that I could. And it wasn't so that I could get something back from them. This was just my normal standard operating procedure. Now, consequently, sometimes this caused problems for me because I ended up trying to help too many people and not focusing on my own priorities of what I needed to get done. However, I always felt that this was a much better trade-off, and I'd rather take the hit for not getting something done on my piece in order to um, truly help the business in different ways that technically weren't my responsibility, but I took ownership of it because I saw the problem. I understood what a possible solution was. I was right there. So I took that ownership of being able to help, obviously, if they wanted that assistance. And because you can get yourself in a lot of trouble helping people who don't actually want your help. Learned that a few times the hard way as well. And you get labeled controlling and, you know, stepping over bounds and all those kind of things. So, but it's those interpersonal challenges that end up causing the biggest delays, the biggest problems in your personal life and your professional life. So, one of the ones, and this is something that's really important, and before I jump into that, how I want to tie this back is it can be easy to get discouraged. It can be easy to focus on how other people are talking to you, how, like, because sometimes they weren't being nice about this stuff. And I really had to pull this information out of them and let them know that I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here as a threat. I'm not going to tell your boss that you told me the problems that you're having. I just help them feel comfortable. I help them feel safe and relaxed, and that they could open up to me because I was there to truly help them and truly understand what is it that they're going through that's a challenge for them. Sometimes it had nothing to do with work. Sometimes they were just pissed off at their husband and they needed to vent, or another coworker, and whatever they told me didn't go beyond me. So I always made sure that when somebody disclosed something to me, it stayed with me, and it didn't go other places. And it also didn't affect my perception of that person that they were talking about, because I know that there's always two sides to every story. Even when I am upset about something, I am aware, and it's funny because I've done so much inner work. There's been times where I've actually had to call out for the other person, and I'm like, and this is why you should actually be mad at me because I've done these things, right? And they're kind of like, oh, yeah, I guess I should be mad at you for that. And I'd be like, yeah, you should. It's okay. I understand. I can see what I've done wrong. I'm because I've been very good at being able to do the stuff. I've done this for a long time of going through multiple iterations and analyzing the reasons why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And it all stems back to running everything through this filter of love is the only thing that's real. Everything else is either an expression of or a cry for love. And when you look at everything through that lens, if somebody's behavior is good, it's an expression of love, and you offer assistance, you offer help. And I had to also become very good at understanding why am I offering this help? Because if I'm doing it with some sort of hidden intention, um, then I'm going to set myself up for resentment and anger. And then I'm going to be like, man, I did all this shit for you and you did nothing for me and you hurt me and blah, 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 blah. And that's not going to help me. I end up sitting with that myself, and that's not a good thing, right? So I had to learn to really get granular with what my motives are, because if I did something, I operate from the premise of love is for free and for fun, expecting nothing in return. I really had to work to focus on doing that kind of stuff, because if not, what I found is I would get hurt, I would get resentful, I would get angry, and that was only hurting me, right? That was only hurting me if I was in that state of like, well, I did these things for you, and I think you should do that for me. And how I ended up being able to switch that stuff over was I know that whatever energy that I'm putting out, whatever good I'm putting out, expressions of love that I'm sending out to the world, I do expect it to come back, but not from that person in particular. That in some other way, some other time, that this energy will come back to me. When you radiate enough good energy out to the world, that will come back. Here's the thing though, is if you radiate any negative energy, that shit also comes back to you, and it doesn't just come back to you in equal value, it gets 10x, right? It comes back to you tenfold. And so this is why I work really, really hard at managing my own behavior. And I can't necessarily control how other people are going to behave towards me. All I can do is manage everything that is at the end of this nose, right? So I keep my nose on my face. I don't worry about what other people are doing. I focus on what it is that I need to do for myself. And that's my priority. Um, and so, in understanding that, that helps reduce the level of anger, frustration, resentments that build up within me. And I am very diligent at working towards making sure that there is no hate in my heart. Now, I'm not perfect at this by no stretch of the imagination. Sometimes it takes a little bit, sometimes it takes a few times to kind of go through this, because sometimes people do some pretty shitty shit. That's kind of funny, shitty shit. And it can be hard not to be hurt by that. But when I focus on finding the ways of how can I take ownership, doesn't mean blame. Ownership doesn't mean blame. It means this stuff happened. Now, what can I do going forward to reduce, prevent any of those things from either happening again, or I can choose to look at it and see it for what it is. Because if somebody is lashed out, they've hurt you, they've acted in a bad way, they've said nasty things about you, that has more to do with them than it does with you. And so kind of bringing this back to like a work environment. So in this role that I was in the same company, um, I was the new person. It was like my first week on the job. I think it was like the first week, maybe a week and a half, right? And so when I had started the VP of sales, maybe why I have some issues with sales. Maybe I'll look at that in a bit. But so this VP of sales, he came in and he tried to ask me something, and he was one of those like fast talker, slick kind of guys. And he was also of the mindset of when he said something, he expected, like, he had this sense of, when I say jump, you better be jumping and asking how high on the way up. So that was his kind of personality in how he delivered things. He walked around the place like his shit didn't stink, and he felt justified in being able to talk to anybody like that. So, and I didn't react to it, but he had asked me something. He came in, and I had just finished the meeting with the president and the VP of IT of what we were putting as priorities. And so he came in and he said, "Oh, I need this done." And I was like, "Okay." And I went to ask him a question to get clarification. He took that as I was being subordinate. And I was like, "Dude, what the fuck?" But he got really, really mad about it. And I was like, "No, I'm just trying to clarify, especially because what he was asking me to do was in direct conflict with what the president of the company had just asked me to do." And so I was like, trying to get clarification so that I could take that information and go back and say, "Hey, this is what this person wants done, and is there any way that we can bump this up, or should I keep this other thing as priority?" That was my intention. Instead, this guy went back to the president, and because they were friends, they're a long time, he's known him so much longer, told a bunch of stuff about me that was not true, blatantly lied. And I was like, wow, I cannot believe this actually happened. I get pulled into the office, raked over the coals, and um, I was not treated fairly at all. All I could do in that moment was focus on managing my own reaction, and I am so, so grateful that I had done enough inner work not to fly off the handle, because I so wanted to. And it was so hard because I was like, and women, you know what I'm talking about too, when you get those angry tears where like, the tears start to come out of your eyes, where you're so pissed because you've been treated so fucking unfairly, and yet you have to sit there with a smile on your face and say, "I understand where you're coming from. I understand the direction you would like me to take this in, and I would just like to state for the record." So I did speak up for myself. I didn't like let it slide completely. I did speak up, and I explained my side, and I stated exactly what my intention was, what I had said, what I didn't say, and all of that kind of stuff. And I cleared the air. And the president just kind of looked at me, and the look on his face, I knew that he knew that this other guy had lied, but he couldn't come out and say that. And he was kind of like, shit. Because he also knew this guy well enough to do that this wasn't the first time that he's done this. So it was a fear aggression thing that this guy did. Of he wanted to be able to establish dominance. He wanted his stuff as being top priority, and the new person on the team, he wanted to make sure that I knew what hierarchy he was. And so the funny thing is because I didn't react negatively, because I didn't give in to fighting fear with fear. and lashing back out at him and saying all kinds of things, because I could have gone down that road. It would have been very easy to do that. And because I didn't, I actually gained the respect of not only the president and the VP of IT, but I gained the respect of the guy that tried to shoot me down, that he knew enough not to try and mess with me in that way again, because I didn't react in a negative way. So when you don't react in a negative way to somebody else's bad behavior, what ends up happening is all of their fear, all of their lashing out, their bad behavior sits squarely on their shoulders. It sits with them, and then they now have no choice but to look at their own behavior, because you didn't add fuel to the fire. This is so important, and it's really important in any interpersonal relationships that you have in the workplace, is to, because somebody can throw a rock at you and then hide their hands and kind of go, well, I didn't do it. I don't know why they're acting so bad, right? But because everybody now looks at you, and if you behave in a way that you can respect at the end of the day, then no matter what it was that they did, you come out winning, okay? And everybody's eyes, they don't look at who threw the rock. They look at how you're going to react to the rock being thrown at you. And when we can control our own reactions, when we have done enough inner work to know that, wow, this person must be having a really rough time if they misunderstood me in that way, right? If I can't imagine the stresses that they were under. And as time went on, so I was only with the company 9 months before they ended up actually going bankrupt. Why do you think they went bankrupt? Not enough revenue. Whose shoulders does that sit on? Maybe the VP of sales? Maybe a little. So I suspect he was under a great deal of pressure. So because of that, I could understand why he needed his stuff as priority. And it's funny because at the company Christmas party that year too, the VP, so they were awarding most valuable employee, right? And the VP got it because he brought in the most amount of money and generated the most revenue for the company, and that's a good lesson in and of itself. No matter where you are on the org chart, when it comes down to it, whoever brings in the revenue is going to be the most valuable employee. So any closers, any sales reps that are listening to this, know your worth, know your value, that you generate the revenue that comes into the business. So your integrity, your connections, your ability to connect with the customers is of extreme importance. So please, 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 please value that about yourself. Do not just think that you are, and don't let anybody treat you like you're less than, like you're a low guy on the totem pole, right? I don't care if you're an appointment setter, because I've seen some appointment setters that, geez, if it hadn't been for how well the appointment setter set that appointment, I probably would have not closed when I dealt with the actual closer. I've had those kind of experiences, and it's like, I knew that the setter worked so hard with me and built that trust with me that I was willing to take that next step. And then I dealt with the closer, and the closer gave me the skeevies. And I was like, but I didn't want the setter to lose out on the close, and I also did want the product. So, I went forward with the purchase. But at the same time, had it just been dealing with that closer, I can promise you that close wouldn't have closed. And I'm an easy freaking close. Of all the things, I'm an easy close. I like to buy, right? And I also can appreciate when somebody's done a good job with sales. So Anyway, I kind of went off on a little tangent there. So sometimes you don't get the information as to why somebody acts out in bad behavior in real time. And sometimes you never get the answers as to why they may have behaved badly. And that's okay. Just know, I mean, think of it. Anytime that you have lashed out at somebody, were you in your best mood ever? Were you in a great state? Were you in a loving mood? No, because when we're in that state, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Like, you don't sweat the small stuff, right? But when you're in that negative state where you're feeling a lot of stress, pressure, fear, right? For whatever reason, you're not going to hit your deadlines, your KPIs, your this, your that, the other thing. You're in this state of anxiety. Well, now you feel justified with smacking down anything that becomes a roadblock or an obstacle to your progress, right? To you alleviating that fear, right? So this is why it's so important for us to look at our own fears. What is it that is driving us? Why am I so afraid? And releasing the attachment to whatever that outcome is. When we can do that and know that and get ourselves in a state of love, knowing that even if this doesn't work out the way that I want it to, I know that it's going to work out even better than I thought. Even if it doesn't go the way I thought, then I know this is going to turn out even better. That requires a level of connection with something higher than you, a higher power, God, of your understanding, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, whatever, right, that you believe in, something outside of you, science. Maybe it's science that you believe in, and it's more law of averages, that it's a numbers game. Eventually, I've got to win, right? I don't care what it is that you believe. Believe in something greater than your own power. When you do that, then think of being in that state where you've gotten all the things that you want and more, right? Um, Keep in mind, I don't know about you, but one of the greatest things that I had ever come across was my own understanding of my limited knowledge. Even as much as, and it's funny because the more I learn, the more I know that I don't know. And it's so funny because when I was younger, I thought I knew it all. And I laugh when people think that I'm arrogant because I'm not. I'm like, shit, I don't know enough. And I'm always trying to learn more, learn more. And I know in one lifetime, I just cannot possibly learn all the things that I want to learn. And I actually love this process. So, when I know that, when I operate from that place, how can you ever go into any situation being absolutely 100% sure that this is the truth and the only truth? Always leave some room for alternate possibilities, some missing piece of information that could shift your perspective completely. And so whenever I was dealing with anybody within a company, with any other people of understanding what's going on with them, first of all, manage my own emotions. Number one, get my own fears under control. Because of course, what happened in that situation with the VP? It's like, hey, I'm the brand new person. They're going to take his word over mine, and I have nothing to back that up. I have no credibility. I just started with the company, and so I have to eat this. Like, that really sucks, and it's not fair. And like, it really triggered this whole injustice thing in me, and definitely triggered on my friggin' childhood trauma. That definitely rang a few alarm bells. So, needing to learn to manage my own emotions from my previous trauma of how I wasn't believed with the stuff that I had said when I had talked about the sexual abuse, when I told people, and that people knew what was actually happening to me and did nothing. So those, it rubbed on all of those wounds, having somebody in greater authority than me that spread lies about me, that um, talked down to me, said things that weren't true, got me in trouble with people that could potentially just fire me for without having to prove any cause, right? Because it's still like I'm just in my first week. So that could have just been, okay, you're out. And I'm really like, I just left a job that I was at for 5 years to come to this place, right? Um, so that was a scary thing for me. And so if I hadn't done the inner work that I had done before, I wouldn't have known how to manage those emotions. I may have lashed back out. I may have said some shit that made it worse and threw kerosene on the fire. And now, instead of looking at the guy that made the false accusations on me, um, they would have been looking at me of like, hmm, we might have to watch her, right? We might have to, you know, you see how badly she reacted with that, right? So it all the focus would have been on me. But because I kept my emotions in check, under control, then now they don't they might have still thought, okay, we're going to watch and see how this plays out, but we also know how this other guy behaves and he's done this before, so it now gets more weighted to where it actually belonged. So, sorry, and I was kind of, I just circle back. So at this Christmas party, and the VP of sales, he got that award, but I noticed that I also got an honorable mention. I know there's no technical prize for getting second place, but it felt good to be recognized for the contributions, even though I had just been with the company only, I think 8 months, 8 months at the time. Yeah. So it was nice to get that recognition, and I don't regret, even though I ended up losing that job because of the bankruptcy. I also lost out on a bunch of money that they had owed, and it was a bad timing, bad timing to be losing your job, right? Um, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, right? It's sad though, because I really liked that job and I liked the people that I was working with and I liked the things that I was doing. But managing those projects and working with the programmers and all of that kind of stuff was really cool. And this goes to another interpersonal skill. So it's funny because people, when they give you resistance, whenever, I don't care if this is in sales, is in closing, is in coaching, is in um, working with a coworker, working with your kids, working with your spouse, whoever, family member, if you are facing resistance from the other person, they are not wanting to do what you're asking of them. What you're coming up against is their fear. And it can be so easy to kind of label them as they're the problem, they have the attitude, you can look at the personality of how they handle the situation. Oh, they're mousy, they're timid, they're this, they're that, oh, he's just a jackass, he's angry, oh, she's so sarcastic, she never takes anything serious. Whatever it is, know that those are fear responses, and you have your four major um, fear responses, and they're all energetically linked. So when you first come across something that triggers a fear response in you or somebody else, you're going to get fight, right? So they may argue back, they may, put up their dukes if you physically scare them, right? And that is a normal, healthy response when somebody crosses a boundary. It's like, hey, you ask you push a deadline on them or something, or you add additional work to them, and they might be like, what the fuck, right? They might get upset about that, and understand that that is a fear reaction. And if you are in a state of fear and they're in a state of fear, everybody's going to have a bad time. So we can't manage their fear states. We can only manage our fear states. And know that um, if fight doesn't work, you can only fight so long before you run out of energy. Maybe they get argumentative and stuff like that. Maybe your staff is arguing back and forth with different things. They're fighting amongst themselves. Um, they're not agreeing, they're not getting along. That's delaying all kinds of projects. Now it's like, and then they start getting back at each other, right? Because that, tell me, you guys have been in companies where you see this happening within the same company, different departments giving each other tit for tat. That's never a good thing, right? It's never a good thing. And you can come in with a big hammer and say, no, you all need to get along. We have to stop working in silos and blah, blah, blah. I've been at companies that done that, right? It's like, that's about as as effective as a wet noodle, right? It's not very good. And it's like, so, and that's a bad analogy anyway. It's like, what can I say? So going through this stuff, if you're both in that fear state, you guys can only fight for so long. Then it becomes flight, right? And people will run away. They'll avoid. They'll see you coming down the hallway, and then they'll go the other way and stuff like that. So they don't have to confront the fact that they didn't do the thing that you needed them to do and stuff like that. Another great thing with project management of having to hunt people down. Now you have to deal with some of the avoidance issues, right? They're in that flight state where they're like, oh shit, I didn't do the thing I needed to do, and now I'm going to avoid you, and having to still hold them accountable to the thing that you needed done and do it in a way where they don't feel threatened, right? Because if you threaten them even more, now they go into freeze mode where they just become shut down and they don't, um, they're stuck, right? They don't know how to solve the problem. They have one little thing and you're looking at it going, like, this is a pebble and you think it's a mountain. It's like, what the hell's going on here? Why don't you just do X, Y, Z, right? And it can be easy to get in that frustrated mode when you're looking at them going, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why aren't you getting this shit done, right? Again, managing our own fear state, because if I'm getting in that state, it's because shit, pressure's on me that I've got to answer to why these guys aren't doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing, and my job is to manage the projects. So if my fear kicks in, now I might start getting aggressive or angry with them. That's your first warning sign. If you are getting aggressive or angry with somebody else, you have slipped into a fear state, okay? Um, and then if that continues on, then what you're going to end up getting is you get fawn state. And this is how you recognize fawn state within a business is you have a bunch of yes men around you. You have a bunch of people pleasers. Oh, yes, that is the best idea. We think that's amazing. And you're like, okay, great. We're going to do this. And you go away and you come back and you think it's going to be done. And you're like, the fuck? Nobody did anything? Ah, they've been in such a fear state for so long that their energy level has now gone down to, oh, we can't speak up. We can't tell you why we can't actually do the thing. We just have to tell you yes because you're the big boss, you're scary, or you're going to get us in trouble if we tell you anything. So we're just going to tell you what you want to hear or what we think you want to hear. And that is a very, very dangerous place to be in your business or in your team. If you catch any of your team members doing that, you have got a lot of work to do with being able to manage your own fear reactions and to also build the confidence level back up with your own team to bring them out of that fear state, because now you're not going to get proper information, you're not going to get proper feedback, you're not going to get anything thing that's actually valuable for you to solve problems. And in order to solve problems within a business or a relationship or a partnership or anything like that, you need to be in a state of love. You need to be in that state of creativity, of expressions of helping each other, of solving problems, of working together, of teamwork. That is a state of love, right? Everything is either a cry for or an expression of love. So if you filter any reaction into it, falls into one of those two buckets. And if you're not sure which one it falls into, if you cannot definitively say, hey, this is somebody who loves their job, loves being here, loves coming to work every day, and these are the behaviors that we see with somebody that's in that state, if they were in that state and then they no longer are, now you have to know that they've shifted over to a fear state. And that is what actually needs to be worked on. And remembering that fear is false evidence appearing real. That is an illusion. That is believing lies and things that aren't actually real. People's true state of being is being in this helpful, supportive, energetic, positive being. That is their positive, natural state of being. People like to collaborate, they like to get along. It takes a lot of energy to fight. That is not a good use of time or resources. Think about it. Every time you're having to fight in your business, whether it's internal, whether it's with your customers, whether it's with your suppliers, your vendors, your partners, any of these kind of things, your employees, if you're having to fight, you are losing valuable resources. And sure, you could come around and you can rule with fear and punish anybody that does fight. That just causes everything to go underground. And now you are not dealing with the truth. You're dealing with a bunch of lies, and you can't actually solve a problem if you're in denial about what the real problem is. And denial stands for don't even know I am lying. Okay? So this is why it's so important to be able to understand what it is that you actually need to prioritize. And we need to prioritize, first of all, our own emotions, our own inner work, ourselves, because that is the piece that we have the most control over. And then we have some influence through our energy, through our interactions, through our interpersonal relationships with whatever job we are working at. And I don't care if you're the janitor or you're the friggin' president, owner of the company, all the way through it. We all need to be able to manage these interpersonal skills, these relationship skills, and that begins with our own stuff, and it also begins with understanding how we were affected by our past experiences, whether that was a trauma or a wound or any ways that we've been hurt or put us in a state of fear that made us, you know, we've been bitten by things that happen in our lives, right? And once bitten, twice shy. Now we start to build up these defenses, these security systems, these ways of behaving that put checks and balances and put people through all these tests and everything. And it comes from lack of trust. It's fear. And being in that state is not good. You are not operating with optimal efficiency when you are in a state of fear. You shift yourself into a state of love, and that even if people are behaving badly, you know that they are in a state of fear. If you can help them transition to a state of love, I'm telling you, you're going to win their respect. And for me, respect is higher than love. It's the greatest expression of love, is when you truly respect somebody else. You respect who they are, what they do, what they think, what they bring to the table. And I think we should have a level of respect for everybody that we come across as being another living human being. And we all have pain, we all have joy, we all have sadness, we all have happiness. And recognizing and respecting the light within the other person is how we all start to win in life. And so this is what I wanted to bring to you guys today. And yeah, I hope that you found that helpful. If you are jumping in partway through, I will be uploading the video of the replay on YouTube, so you can check that out there. You can go to my YouTube channel. I would love it if you went and showed me some love, expressions of love by subscribing on my YouTube channel. It's Coach Tina B 125. You can check that out. And if you have any questions, problems, challenges that you would like me to do a training on, feel free to send your questions to me, and I'd be happy to create a training for you. So, guys, I hope you found that helpful, and we will see you again tomorrow night, all right? And probably around 11 p.m.-ish Eastern Standard Time is when I'll be on. A little delayed tonight. Like I said, I was having some physical challenges that I needed to lay down for a bit, but still showed up, still did the live, and I'm proud of myself for that. So, guys, hope you have a great night. Hope you found this useful, and we will talk to you again tomorrow. Take care. Bye.